Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom, and in this video we're going to look at this little book. So this is The Key from Spain by Debbie Levy and illustrated by Sonia Warmer. So this is a story of, and I'm going to mispronounce this last name, Flori Jogada and her music. So this is an interesting story about a young girl. Her family originally lived in Spain. They were Jewish. They were among Christians and Muslims. This was during the Muslims' rule of Spain. But when what we might call now the Christian Spaniards came, they kicked them out. So this would what would be considered the basically they kicked out, I believe, what would be considered the Moors, and they fled to Bosnia, and they spake a language that I cannot pronounce, but it was the Jewish language of Spain. So, like Yiddish is the kind of Jewish language of the what we might call Eastern Europe and Russia. This language was the language that Jews spoke in Spain and possibly even Portugal. So it's basically Judo-Spanish is kind of what they is another common name for it. But their family moved to Bosnia, and they lived in a little village. And her time passed, and of course this was before her. This was her ancestors, and they carried with them this key and their language and their music. And so this key apparently that opened their family home in Spain came with them. They kept, because they couldn't take a lot with them because they were being expelled. So they could probably only take what they could carry. And this key hung in this young girl's, Flori's family home. She was born in 1923. So her family lived there. They eventually moved to Croatia, another city, because away from their extended family, because her parents wanted to move to a city. I'm assuming she was an only child. And then World War II happened, and her parents like, okay, we got to get out of here. So she took off her badge. They got her on a train and they left. And it doesn't exactly say where do they went. I think they went to Spain, oddly enough. Look in the very back. Let's see. No, they went to, I think they were refugees either in Italy or in, seems like they were in Italy. Where the heck? Alright, where on earth did they go? Split. S-P-I-L-T. It was on the sea. I'm guessing it was in, possibly Italy or Greece. I don't quite know where this is. But that's where they went, and they were refugees until the war ended. She ended up going to work. When the war ended, she ended up going to Italy, where she fell in love and married an American soldier and went to the United States. And she continued teaching her children and singing and being basically a music teacher, singing in this language that is mostly dead. That's what it says in the end of the book, that this specific form of Jewish language is mostly dead. Not a lot of people know it or speak it anymore, which kind of makes sense because the Jews were long ago kicked out of Spain. So it was probably very likely forgotten. And again, her family may have spoken. They lived in a small village and they moved to a city. And then, of course, the Holocaust happened and they killed a bunch of people, including the majority of this young girl's family. So, pretty much, aunts, uncles, grandparents, cousins, all dead. As happens, because they were still in Bosnia. And that was taken over by the Nazis, who, killed all the Jews. They probably killed the Muslims, too. Because, again, Nazis. So, but again, it's a very, very good book. It's a very interesting story. It is, in fact, a true story. So, But it's a story of hope. So it talks about the families. You can see a lot of the illustrations. They're done very, very well. They show them being forced out. It's very possible by the Spaniards. And they, where do we go? And they found another village. And they grew into a large family. And her parents was like always giving to the people in need before the Sabbath. And then she was sad. Her parents taught her grandmother taught her how to play. This looks like an accordion-like instrument. And she sung and played music. And then this is her escaping on a train by herself to get away from the Nazis. And her parents told her, it's like, play anything, but don't speak your language. Don't speak the language we speak at home. So, and then they went to this other town. Her parents joined her, and then she eventually left for America. And though she didn't have the key anymore, she took her with her. She took with her her music, her musical instrument, and the language. And then she had 4 children, and she taught them as she played music with them. And then the very end is, so this is her when she was young, and then as an adult, she was gifted, let's see, basically, where is it? She became known as the keeper of the flame of this Sapphiric music. I don't know how to pronounce it, but she was given the National Endowment for Arts and Heritage Fellowship Award, recognizing the most significant artists in the United States. So, Landio is the language that she spoke. It's also called Judo Spanish. And it's few people know how to know or speak the language. So, it's a very good book. I'm a fond of music. I'm a very fond of educating people about heritage. Sorry, it's a very shiny book cover. It's reflecting the computer screen. Sorry about that. But this is a very good book. If you're studying Jewish history, if you're studying music history, the history of the Spanish being expelled, this is a good book to follow because, again, this is a personal story about what happened to a specific family and a specific girl and how she, as an adult, tried to hold on to and spread the language and the music and the culture that she knew, and how she became a keeper of the flame, so to speak, which she was trying to keep her culture alive, even though, again, it was fading in large part because of what we call the Holocaust. I know Jews use a different term because the Holocaust is actually slightly offensive. I worked with a woman who was converting to Judaism once. Yeah, it's slightly offensive. Essentially, it was a mass Jewish genocide, which again is what we recognize it as, the Holocaust. But again, she lost. That's part of the reasons this language disappears, because you get rid of the people who speak it. So it's back to this book. It's not too long, but the words are definitely small. Let's see if I can know again, no page numbers, but as you can see, the words are kind of small. It's definitely early elementary age, though of course you can read it to younger kids. For the reading level, it's early to mid elementary. So it's great, particularly for families who are studying Jewish history, maybe who have a Spanish background or are studying music history, because this is a part of it. It's the culture and the history of these specific people. So, and I never even thought of that. I knew the Jews were expelled from Spain or made to convert, but that's not an area of history that I'm strongly familiar with. So this was a very interesting story for me to read and experience. So I highly recommend the book. The illustrations are gorgeous. The illustrator did a great job showing the flow and showing the music and the heart of this book, and the heart of this pardon the yawning, It's after 8 o'clock, and I have a small child who got me up at like 3 something in the morning. Because 3-year-olds are insane. So, but nonetheless, fantastic book. That's the end of this review. If you like what you see, be sure to like and subscribe, leave a positive comment if you have one. Again, I'm covering music this month. I know Jewish Heritage Month is something I cover as well. I'm trying to think if I'm covering it this year, or I chose to do something else. I try to cover all sorts of things. I have covered Jewish Heritage Month before, so you can. This is being filmed in November of 2022. I did cover it in 2022. So you can check out those videos. I will probably continue to cover it. I probably am covering it this year. I'd have to check my lists. It's mixing because I'm also doing music and vaccines. So I have this, and then I have Jonas Salk, who was the polio vaccine creator. And I've recently filmed videos for those. So I'm not entirely confused off the top of my head. I'm also covering various book series this year, from The Princess Diaries to The Guardians of Ga'Hoole to a few things in between. I'm covering more Meg Cabot coming up later this fall, as well as more Catherine Lasky, which is going to finish off my year. So, along with, of course, books like this, and films and videos. I don't know if I'm covering any Jewish films. There's not a lot of Jewish films. There's just not. But be sure to check out the channel. I do have videos come out. Books on Monday, media and films come out on Fridays, 8 o'clock consistently. And I have a lot of stuff available that you can check out between then. So again, like and subscribe, leave a positive comment if you have one. Thank you.